Morning. It might have been the middle of the night, but it wasn't. It was Guy Fawkes' Day, and 8 o'clock on a foggy morning. The London square was more than usually hushed and mournful, except for a warning call or whistle as a van cautiously lumbered along, or blundered onto the pavement. The nursery fire did its best to look cheerful. The lights were all on, too, showing up the bright pictures on the walls and the bright faces of the 3 children who were chattering gaily at the breakfast table. And they all looked so smart. Alec and Frank in their best suits, and tiny Molly wore her prettiest white frock and her coral necklace, just as if she were going to a party. They soon scrambled off their chairs, and Molly, standing on tiptoe, seized hold of a bunch of lilies tied up with ribbon that was on the side table, and each of her brothers eagerly possessed himself of a neat brown paper parcel. It was Father's birthday. The occasion was always kept as a holiday, and the children were waiting for his call to summon them to his dressing room. "I think he must be 50, remarked Alec. "I think he's 15, said their little sister. She spoke in a tone of conviction, accompanied by a toss of her short curls. "Don't be silly, Mollykins," replied the boys with a laugh, but she said she was sure she was right. "Hello, kidlets, come along down," came the shout of a manly voice. There was a stampede and a race as to who should get there first. Molly arrived a bad third, but it was she who was first for him, for he went towards her and picked her up. She put her free arm around his neck, but instead of making him her little speech, she exclaimed as he kissed her, "Why, Daddy, your chin is full of splinters." The boys delivered their presents and were kissed or patted on the head and thanked before Molly parted with the flowers which she held so tightly in her little fist. "Your babyship is very kind," said her father, gratefully shaking her by the hand, and laughing still, he put her down. Then he took her hint and seriously began to shave. They knew they mustn't talk to him whilst that important function was proceeding, so the 3 stood still, deeply absorbed as they watched the performance that fascinated them with its dangers and its hairbreadth escapes. "Now I can kiss my little Mollykins and she won't complain." He put down the towel, took her up again, and rubbed his smooth cheek against hers. "Daddy, tell me how old you are," she asked, looking into his eyes. "Oh, how can I do that? It's a secret." "Do whisper it," she coaxed. After a moment's hesitation, he smilingly whispered something into her ear. "Oh, what a talk of years!" she exclaimed. "What is it?" clamored Alec. "I'm sure I'm right." "I'm sure I am," asserted Frank. "I know!" cried the delighted Molly, bursting with importance. "May I tell?" Her father nodded. 21! She exclaimed triumphantly. "Bosh! Why, he said he was that last year," cried Frank. "And the year before," asserted Alec. "And the year before that. I remember quite well. Father always says that." "Guy," called their father just then, "please send the children in to me." She was having her morning tea, so the young people ran into the adjoining room to hug her and be hugged in return. Noon. "Sun's come out," announced Molly as she toddled away from the nursery window. "Hooray!" shouted Frank. There were going to be great doings. Father's birthday and Guy Fawkes Day made a grand double event long looked forward to with enjoyment. "Hooray!" echoed Alec, rather feebly, for he was desperately busy. Outside, now that the fog had lifted, the busy hum could be heard of everyday life, mingled with boys' shouts as they trundled a Guy about. "I found something out!" suddenly exclaimed Alec in a curious voice, and he spread out on the table the front page of an old Times. "Look here, Frank," he continued in growing excitement. "Here, under the berths, marked with a red pencil, Guy Thompson. That's father. Here's the date. Wait a moment. Now I'll reckon it out. Hush! Don't say anything while I do the sum. I'll tell you what. Listen, this afternoon, when we've got to be in the playroom, let's go in a cab to Somerset House and just get to know once for all. I've got 4 shillings in my money box. What have you got?" "I'll count." Frank counted up to 5 shillings. "The man may want more. Dot 6pence? Well, if you pay your share, we'll take you with us. That is, if you can put on your own hat. I can help you with your coat." And so it was arranged. And at 3 o'clock that cold afternoon, Alec, Frank, and Molly might have been seen stealing forth into the keen air. They were supposed to be playing at marbles in the garret, or they might have been seen and packed back again. The boys were well muffled up, and Molly had her hat on with the back to the front. The 3 were in high spirits once they were off, and they realized the full importance of such an adventure. In Alec's hand was a sheet of newspaper in which the truth of the paragraph was to be tested. "Any particular Thompson? You see, we may have several Thompsons in our entries, 5 or 6 at least." "This is Mr. Guy Thompson," said Alec, showing the marked paragraph. "Very well," said the gentleman. "£half-crown's very dear," said Alec. "Can't you do it for less?" The gentleman looked at them with kindly eyes. "I dare say I can," he replied, putting his hand in his pocket and rattling some coins. "But I'm afraid you'll have to pay a shilling. The king wants one." They paid their shilling for the king, watched while the gentleman looked up his records, and followed him into the corridor as he prosecuted his search. At last he said, "Quite right. Born on the 5th of November. Year's all right. It's all in order." "Then father is 21? queried both boys doubtfully. Molly hopped on one foot in suppressed excitement. "Your father?" exclaimed the kindly clerk, handing back the coin. 10, replied Alec. "Thank you." "And so your father married at the age of 10, or thereabouts, did he?" "Dear me! Very precocious of him," exclaimed the clerk, with such a serious face that the children felt quite uncomfortable. Night. When Alec, Frank, and Molly entered the drawing-room, where their parents were in readiness for the great annual frolic with father, they didn't tumble in, as was their usual habit. They walked in sedately. They had something important to say. "Truly, Daddy, how old are you?" asked Molly, running up to him. She wouldn't be hushed down by the boys. "I don't see it, Molly darling." "Do you ever see the Times, boys?" he inquired. "That's just what's so queer," said Alec. "I've got it here." Alec noticed the glance which his parents exchanged, and their expression of astonishment when Frank remarked, "We took it with us this afternoon to Somerset House." "Yes," corroborated Alec. "Me too," chimed in Molly. And then they told of all they had done, and their parents tried to look grave, but couldn't. They could scarcely speak for laughing, though they extorted a promise that nothing of the kind should ever again be attempted without permission. "Surely what is in the Times," reasoned their father, "must be true. At least one must presume so." "Hello," broke in Alec. "I say, Frank, look here. This Guy Thompson was born in Cambridge Square. I never noticed that. Weren't you born in Oxford Square, father?" "Well, I think I might just as well have been born in one as in the other. All I know is that if I was 21, I am 21, and the rest. You never asked me how many more. Come along, boys, now for our cushion fight. But first of all, here are your expenses back again. Your babyship, there's your 6pence. And now I really can't wait any longer for a romp." And afterwards they all danced whilst their mother played a hornpipe, and really it was very difficult to guess father's years. They might have been anything. Then he suddenly ran out. There was a rush to the window. The blind was drawn up, and soon, in the darkness of the night, a grand Catherine wheel was seen whizzing round in a blaze of dripping fire. "Ah!" they repeated over and over and over again, as splendor followed splendor, and the sky was powdered again and again with sparks of colored fire.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel to see the latest videos. Thank you.